Okay, so we're going to be talking about first how we learn. So learning is a journey. Each journey has a starting place and then and hopefully a place that you're heading. So we're going to draw a little cup here, and the cup's not empty, it's got something in it. And the place we're going to, there's going to be more in this cup. Nobody who comes into a course is empty. Every one of us, we've all got some knowledge in us already. We've got some experience. So therefore, right now, you've already got a certain level of understanding. You might be worried about how much you know about maths, or the words that you might be thinking in are how little you know about maths, depending on how confident you feel. But the thing is, you do know some stuff. You've got experience, you contain some knowledge, you're not empty, and that's important. You've got some stuff in you already that's going to be helpful. So that's our current level of understanding. And you're moving, or education, the learning process carries you towards a better level of understanding. Cassie, you've mentioned you've got a young child. You'll be observing the child learning the English language, and you might remember.
Yes.
So you might be remembering as well how you learnt certain things, or you've observed other children learning things. So think of how a little kid might be very first exposed to the concept of dog. Their own house, the only pets they've got is a goldfish. The child's never seen a four-legged animal before. It's 1 and a bit years old. It's approaching 2 years old. It's never seen a dog. And then you travel to another town where the grandparents live. The grandparents have a pet dog. And the kid learns that day this thing that it pats is called dog. And everything seems great until later on, maybe a week later, you're visiting another relative, auntie and uncle, and they've got a dog as well. And the kid doesn't believe you when you call it a dog. He says, "This isn't dog. Dog's at Nana's house." Okay, that's a misconception. It's a very common misconception called underextension. So our current level of understanding might contain some misconceptions. So that kind that I just mentioned is underextension. So the idea of dog, there's not just one dog in the whole universe. There's a whole lot of things that can be called dog, but when the child learnt the concept dog, they just didn't stretch the concept far enough. They thought it just referred to that particular dog that they meant. So the parent explains the concept of dog more clearly, and that misconception is corrected. But but all goes well until another week later, and Junior points to a kangaroo and shouts "dog." Okay, you've probably seen that happen as well. They think sheep's a dog, a kangaroo's a dog, a cow's a dog. Well, that's called overextension. It's always funny when we see it. It's kind of cute, but it's just easy. It's just what happens when you learn. But the thing is, it happens our entire life. And the little kid's not embarrassed about it, but when we do it later in life, when we have a misconception, we underextend something or overextend something, it embarrasses us. So it might be that when you go through school, you learn something about multiplication, division, whatever, and you kind of roughly learn it, and it all looks okay on the day, but later on, it might be a month or two later that it's revealed that, you didn't quite get division. There's a misconception. Something's been overextended or underextended, and when it comes out, you just feel so ashamed and embarrassed, and that's it, I'm never going to learn this maths, and your arms fly up in the air. And that's just what happens to so many people. So I'm just letting you know right now, probably the sort of things that contributed to the current level of understanding that you have that perhaps you are not entirely happy with, and what we need to break free of in order to get to that better level of understanding. So it's actually important to make mistakes while we're in foundation studies, because while you're making mistakes, these misconceptions get picked up by me. I can bring them to your attention. Now that you understand the sorts of misconceptions that happen, you won't be embarrassed about it, and you go, aha, I can fix that. And and then we can move on. So this is the role that tutors have, and it's not just me in maths, but every tutor that you'll have throughout your education. This is what their job is to pick up the misconceptions. So that's why we have tutorials. That's where you practice things that you might look at and think, oh man, this is so simple. Why are they making us do this? And there's so many of them. Well, it's because we're trying to catch the little misconceptions that might be in there you don't know about, and to be able to help you sort of isolate them and then move on from them. Is there any questions about what I've said so far?
No, it actually makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
With the misconceptions, especially.
Okay. And Jamie, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I pretty much get everything you said. I don't have any questions about that.
Okay. Okay, so that's the role that the tutors play. And like I said, it's not just me in maths, but it's going to be every tutor that you have in your degree. And, even later on, you'll have mentors in your career after you've graduated, and they might be picking up on things like this to help you as well. I know that after I graduated as an electronics engineer, I then worked with another electronics engineer who had, I've got grey hair. You can't see me, but yeah, I've got grey hair and a grey beard and a bald patch on top. But when I graduated, I didn't look like that. But the thing was, though, they put me to work with somebody who was much older than me, who'd already made a zillion mistakes. So he knew what a mistake looked like. So when I made a mistake, he was able to say, oh, Darren, there's a misconception there. So it happens throughout your career. And again, it's not something to be embarrassed about. It's just how we learn. Okay? It's just how we learn. So the role of the student then is to actually do the moving, because I said that this is a journey. You're going from your current level of understanding to a better level of understanding. That means you've got to move. Well, it's the students who actually do the driving. So I'll rub that out. The reason I changed that is because I didn't want to imply that you drive yourself to a half-full glass and stop. The whole idea can always work at getting better. Okay. So, if the concept of maths is a cause of, worry for you, that can change because things are different now. Because think about back in infant school and primary school, you would have been easily distracted by childish things. When you're a little kid, it's just so easy to be distracted. Other things are far more fun than perhaps what the teacher's trying to say. So back then, you'd have been easily distracted, but now you've got the strength of mind of an adult. Maybe you spent too much of your time as a child, living in your own little world, but that's all been left behind, and now you've got a good idea of what's important. And even if you had teachers that you didn't like, or even didn't like you, that's all in the past. So now that we've moved away from childhood and finished with school, we're in charge of our own learning. Okay, we can drive it ourselves. We don't have to depend on or so much on other people to feed knowledge to us. We're mature now, so we can take charge. So how do lectures, textbooks, tutorials, etc., how do they fit into the journey from our current level of understanding to a better level? We've got reading material, we've got a study guide, we've got textbooks. Some courses don't have a study guide. Some courses just have lots of textbooks and online videos and all sorts of things to watch. But the way I think about a textbook, it's kind of like a jigsaw puzzle. It's like a box of pieces without a picture. I'm sure you've done jigsaws before, haven't you? How helpful is it to have the picture of what the jigsaw is meant to look like when it's put together? You know? But when we're learning complex subjects, in university or college, it's like the textbook is like this jigsaw puzzle without a picture. We don't know what it's going to look like when it's put together. We only know what the picture is after we've finished, and that's frustrating. But nonetheless, that's kind of like what the reading material, like a textbook and a study guide, is like. But even if you were doing it, comparing this to a real jigsaw, if you were in that situation where you had a jigsaw puzzle to put together and you didn't have the picture, there's still strategies you could take. For example, you could look for straight edges, like a piece that actually, you could certainly go looking for the four corners. That would be a great help. You can have a corner that looks like that, another corner that's like that. It's going to have, so we've got a bottom left and a bottom right. You're going to end up with another corner that's, like that, and another corner that's, like that. They're the first four pieces that you'd go looking for, and then you'd be looking for all the pieces that have straight edges on them, and you'd put them in a pile, collect them all together. You can make a pile of red pieces and a pile of blue pieces, and it would start getting you ready for putting the picture together. And it would be harder without the picture, but you'd still be able to do it. So that's my analogy of what the textbook and the study guide and your other reading material, not just in maths, but in all courses. But a lecture that you have, a lecture is like a rough outline of that picture or a section of that final picture. So when you watch online lecture videos every week, that's like, say in week 1, it's like hearing a description saying, oh, the jigsaw picture's got a blue sky with white clouds. On the left-hand side, there's some buildings. On the right-hand side, there's a river or a lake, and the ground down the bottom, it's a cobblestone footpath, and there's a road as well. And that might be all you get. And you think, man, I just come out of that lecture confused. I'm not educated. Yeah, it will feel like that. Don't expect to come out of lectures feeling heaps enlightened or anything like that. You're going to come out feeling a little bit burdened, a little bit anxious and that. But you can still tackle it. You can still cope, because just like you can put together a jigsaw puzzle without a picture, you can certainly get through a week of reading a textbook to put together the picture based upon the vague outline that the lecturer provided to you. So a lecture is like hearing a description of what the picture is going to look like, but it's only an outline. And then you've got to spend your week studying the reading material to build your understanding out of the pieces of information that you're reading. And you start finding what parts join together. And then after about a week of that, and you might be able to tackle some tutorial questions that are fairly simple. And then the student brings what you've built out of those pieces to the tutorial, so that any misconceptions that may exist can be corrected, so that you get a clear picture and that your understanding's made more perfect. Because it could be that when you put the picture together, it's close, but it's not quite. And then the tutor will look at it and go, and something might come to light. Something's been overextended, something's been underextended. And then the process repeats. You go to the second week lecture, and the lecturer says something along the lines of, the road has 3 motorbikes parked on it. One of them's a black Harley, one's a red Vespa, and the other's a blue Vespa. And then the process starts again. You go to the textbook, you read more, you find the pieces that cover the vague outline that the lecturer provided, you put it together, and then the tutor catches the misconceptions, and you move closer and closer to that better level of understanding. You move away from your current level of understanding and drive yourself towards better. Week 3, the lecturer then says, on the footpath, there's a table and chairs outside a cafe. 3 people are seated. There's a waitress in a doorway in a blue and white checked apron. And then it's like, it starts again. You spend a week reading the textbook and the study guide and pulling all those pieces together and gradually the picture just builds up, and then at the end of the study period, you're getting towards being an expert. So that's the way we learn in uni and as an adult. And like I said earlier, it's not just for maths. Yeah, maths will be like that, but pretty much every other course is going to be like that too. Is there anything that I can add or anything that you'd like to ask me before we wrap up this bit and move into doing some math equations and numbers and stuff?
Will we get a copy of the study guide sent out?
Not a hard copy in paper. No, there's just the PDF. So you've got a file that you can look at. It's got about 180 pages in it. So printing it, I mean, you can print it if you want, but that's going to be a lot of paper. But something I would recommend is just printing the answers. Yeah, there's a section.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a section at the back that's just got all the answers to all the tutorial questions, and that might be about 10 or 20 pages. I can't remember exactly how many, but if you just print those, that's just a handy reference to have for the whole study period.
Okay, cool.
Is there anything else that I can help you with before I blank this screen?